Nah, dude, nah. Big shout out to Riot Survivor, aka K-Mad on the Canucks sub, because this tweet that he made last night was a total banger. This is the kind of thing that changes perspectives. Let's go out there and read each and every one of these posts. Sidney Crosby and Alex Ovechkin both scored last night. The Canucks are first overall in the NHL. Toronto just let in 9 goals. Anze Kopitar is a front runner for the Selke. Jonathan Quick has one of the highest save percentages in the NHL. Guys, I think we're in a rerun. Now, what in the world does this mean? Of course, if you've been around here for a while, if you've been a hockey fan for, let's say, a decade and a bit, all these storylines are familiar, but not really familiar in the 2023 sense. These storylines are all things that if you had said happened 10 years ago, would have all been pretty true. And the rerun aspect comes out of it when you say, wait a minute, it's 2023. It's not 2013 or 2011 or 2012 when all of these things were more so likely. But the old heads, the old teams, hey, we're bringing back old morals here. Let's go out there and talk about each one of these ideas, starting out with Sidney Crosby and Alex Ovechkin, because if you take a look at what these two have been able to accomplish this season, everybody's been talking about Sidney Crosby. 34 points, 31 games played, on pace for 90 on the year, which would be as good as his season last year where he had 93 points. But what stands out for Sid this season is that he's on pace for 50 goals. When was the last time Sidney Crosby had 50 goals? It was in 2009, 2010. That was 13 years ago, the last time he broke the 50-goal mark. Every other season he's had 40, 30, 20, but of course always with a lot more assists. This year he actually has way more goals than assists, 19 versus 15. Sidney Crosby, at 36 years old, is still kicking, is still doing what he does, is still being a captain, still being a leader, and there is so much to look forward to as Crosby finishes off this 2024-2025 expiring $8.7 million contract. He is Sid the Kid still, even though he's 36 years old. Then you have yourselves Alex Ovechkin, who has gotten off to a really bad start this season. He only has 6 goals in 30 games played, on pace for 16 on the year. So much for catching up to Wayne Gretzky's record. But if I'm going to be honest, if Alex Ovechkin has one of these seasons where, let's say like in 2020, 2021, sure, the goals per game number is really all right, but he only had 24 goals this season. People were starting to say, okay, maybe Ovechkin is washed. Maybe this is not really his thing anymore. There was the 30-goal year he had in 2016-17. That was also a year where people started to say he was washed. But then he bounced back with 50 goals in 2 of the next 5 years, and this season he is on pace for one of the worst seasons he's ever had in terms of goal production. So who knows? Is this the anomaly season? Is this the decline season? We'll wait and see until the end of the year what goes on with Ovechkin. If he gets 16 goals only in 82 games played, then buckle up, Wayne Gretzky. You're going to go back up to the top of the goal-scoring power rankings. But either way, if Ovechkin has a bad year this season, and then next year he gets, let's say, 30 to 35 goals, we're right back in business, baby. Ovechkin is 38 years old himself, so he definitely isn't a young nugget. He's got a lot of years under his belt, but of course, 10 years ago, back when he was consistently putting up 50 goals, even the 60-goal year that he had back in 07-08, I mean, this was a guy back in 2010 that was on top of the league. I don't even have to tell you that back in 2010, 2011-ish, this is when he was challenging for the Art Ross and doing all these crazy things. He was going out there against the Sedins pretty much, with Sidney Crosby and Nick Backstrom and St. Louis and Stamkos and all these guys for the point-scoring lead in the NHL. That was the time. 10 years ago, back when these two were on top of their game. I mean, Sidney Crosby's still there. Ovechkin kind of bounced back a little bit. Second point, the Canucks, first place in the NHL standings. If you go over here, they are tied for number 1. The Vegas Golden Knights are the tie, but the tiebreaker goes to Vancouver. Then if you go to points percentage, Vancouver is 3rd overall in the NHL, behind Boston, behind New York. They're still doing all right. Goals for, Vancouver's number 1. Goals against, Vancouver is number 6. And then for goal differential, Vancouver is indeed number 1. The Canucks are doing all right, dude, and this isn't really anything that we have seen since 2011. In fact, per PRNHL, this is the latest into a season that the Vancouver Canucks have been 1st overall in the NHL standings since winning the President's Trophy back in 2011-2012. So that is your kicker right there. That is the same thing 10 years ago. Also, Toronto let in 9 goals last night. That is crazy because it's very reminiscent of the 10 years ago Toronto Maple Leafs. Always choking, always blowing leads, always losing. Yesterday's game against Buffalo was just a total crap show. I mean, let's take a look at all the goals and everything from yesterday's Toronto-Buffalo game. Jordan Greenway, 1-0. Austin Matthews, 1-1. Max Domi, 2-1. Owen Power, 2-2. Jeff Skinner, 3-2. Rasmus Dahlin, 4-2. Calle Yarncrow, 4-3. Tage Thompson, 5-3. Kyle Okposo, 6-3. Jack Quinn, 7-3. Jeff Skinner, 8-3. And then Kyle Okposo, 9-2-3. The Toronto Maple Leafs had what Austin Matthews called was the most embarrassing loss in his entire career. And you know what? No, I'm going to disagree. The David Ayres game was pretty bad too. But still, Buffalo, team that isn't all too great. 9-3 victory over the Toronto Maple Leafs. For some reason, the Leafs just can't pull it together against bad teams. And Buffalo, just 2 nights after getting a 9-bomb dropped against them by Columbus, end up dropping a 9-bomb themselves. What an interesting turn of events. Go back over to the tweet here. Anze Kopitar is a front-runner for the Selke Trophy. He has been great this year. I mean, look at the point production. 29 points, 29 games, on pace for 82 on the season. Just the model of consistency here for Anze Kopitar at 36 freaking years old. 10 years ago, when he was 26, this guy was already a beast. 70, 80-point years consistently over and over again, and now he's still in that territory. There's a reason this guy's been one of the most consistent two-way players in the entire league, and he's got over 1,000 points in his career because of it. Anze Kopitar is just such a stud, and there's no real denying where he's going to go in his career because every year he just shows up. He consistently does the work. And being a frontrunner for the Selke Trophy, especially now that Bergeron's gone, not a surprise. 10 years ago, he was in that conversation. In today's world, he still is. And then if you go over to the final point here, made by Riot survivor Jonathan Quick, has one of the highest save percentages in the NHL. Yeah, he's right there too. 37 years old, he's playing for the Rangers now of all teams, and this season, Quick has a .926 save percentage in 11 games played. He hasn't had a .926 or anything above that since, what is this, 2011, 2012 with the LA Kings? .929 save percentage in 69 games played. Every other season he's been fine. I mean, .918, .918, .921, that's good. But .926 save percentage here, that's bananas. .209 goals against too is also the best season he's had since 2013-14. Now, we know Jonathan Quick plays his best in the playoffs, and that's exactly where he's come out to play. .947 save percentage in the 2017-18 loss. .946 save percentage when they won the Cup. Jonathan Quick is a man amongst boys in the postseason, and I'm not going to go out there and say he's the number 1 in New York. That honor belongs to Igor, but still, if you go over to the NHL and their goaltending situation, I mean, Jonathan Quick is 5th overall in the NHL in save percentage, and if you go over to goals against average, he's 4th. Also, shout out to my guys Thatcher Demko and Casey DeSmith also being on this list here. And then, of course, shout out to JT Miller being 3rd overall in the NHL in points, and Pettersson and Hughes slowly working themselves back up in the points race. But either way, Jonathan Quick doing what he's been doing is phenomenal. It's the best he's been since 10 years ago. Anze Kopitar is as good as he was 10 years ago. Crosby and Ovechkin are still scoring goals. The Vancouver Canucks are 1st in the NHL for the first time, or at least this far into the season for the first time since they won the President's Trophy in 2011-2012. You've got Toronto letting in 9 goals. This is a rerun. 2010 is back on the menu, boys. Let me know your thoughts in the comment section below about this entire conversation brought up by Riot Survivor on Twitter. I hope you enjoyed this video. And bye.